the last option, which is by and large the easiest, breeziest option. Welcome back, everybody. It's Tabletop Toki here, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you a much requested topic on the channel, and that is selling used games. I think when we first get into the hobby, many of us fall into that fervor of acquiring and amassing as big of a collection as we can, primping and preening our shelves to make sure they look tip-top shape for game nights, but it gets to a point where that is not sustainable. We start to look at games that we once used to love, and we say, my dear, you've changed. Or maybe I have. And although I'll always have a special place in my heart for you, we can't be together anymore. To be fair, we've all experienced it where we fall in love with these games, and let's be honest, space is at a premium. I'm a huge advocate for buying, selling, and trading used games. It's something that I got into as soon as I was in the hobby. It's a big part of the enjoyment of the hobby for me as well, just making sure games are in their right homes, seeing them getting played and enjoyed by the people who own them. So being that I'm coming up here on 8 years in the hobby, I have some helpful tips for you and 3 great options for how you can sell and trade your used games. The first option is by and large a lot of time, a lot of investment, a lot of work, but it will get you the most bang for your buck. Using large marketplaces like Board Game Geek or Facebook will get your games out to a wider audience of people and get you the best chances of being able to get as much value out of them as possible. Now, like I said, this does require a lot of work. You'll have to make a listing for the games, usually take pictures, provide detailed descriptions about the game condition and other aspects. You'll also have to then work on posting them on Board Game Geek. Usually you can do them as individual posts. You can list them in an auction. You can do all sorts of things there or put them up for trade. On Facebook, one important tip is that you shouldn't just post them to the marketplace and expect them to sell. There are a lot of dedicated groups run by very hardworking individuals in the hobby for buying, selling, and trading used games. So once you've made an initial marketplace post, make sure you upload it to those different groups. Each group does have very specific guidelines, so please be sure to follow those as closely as possible and look at them ahead of time before posting. Now, once you have your games up, depending on if you're mostly doing local or in this case, probably more than likely to an online audience as well, you will have to handle shipping and communication firsthand yourself. As far as communication, just try to be courteous, try to be patient. You'll likely have a lot of people that ask a lot of questions that don't end up buying the game. So there's some of that time and effort in there. With regard to shipping, what I found works the best is Pirate Ship. This is not a sponsored segment from them by any means, but it's definitely a lot cheaper than going directly through any particular retailer or mail, at least here in the United States. And it provides you a multitude of options. You can choose the one that's the best balance of price and function for you and your customers. When packaging a game, I cannot stress enough, it's very important that things are not moving. If you know components are loose in a game, make sure you package them up as tightly as possible, even if you need to put a thin layer of packing paper or something down in the game box itself to make sure they're not jumbled around during transit. It's a huge help. As far as the box lid goes, if it's in an okay condition too, securing it with blue painter's tape or tying a ribbon around it or anything like that really helps to preserve the game. And when you're packaging it in the box itself, you don't want it to move around a lot. So again, using packing paper and making sure the corners especially are protected, and using a box that's an appropriate size, not too large, not too small, are all really important things that you want to be prepared for and be able to accommodate when shipping your games. Now, the last consideration for selling and trading games directly is there are fees. A lot of these online marketplaces will encourage people to use PayPal, which there is a fee for goods and services, but it does provide buyer and seller protection, which can be very helpful. However, on top of that, and I can only speak from this perspective of someone in the United States, there is also a potential for additional fees in taxes based on how and where you sell. Because a lot of these marketplaces encourage people to use PayPal, there may be a small commission fee, like on Board Game Geek, for putting up the listing when games sell. For taxes, you're not necessarily going to pay more money. However, it's important that you keep a detailed record of when you purchased the game, how much you purchased it for, when it sold, and how much it sold for to show that you're not turning a profit. Prior to 2024, A lot of states in the US had a threshold of $10,000, I believe. Typically, you're not selling $10,000 worth of board games in a year. However, from everything that I've heard, that number is going to be lowered down to under $1,000, I think as low as $600. So if you do happen to sell a couple big games or sell a lot of small games, you will have to provide documentation if you don't want to pay additional taxes on that. Now, that's going to work differently for every country, and certain states might have slightly different rules, but that's been my experience, and it's something to be aware of and to look into for where you live if you want to go this route. If that sounds like way too much work for you, the next option definitely scales it down a little bit more. It's not quite as easy as the last option, which we'll get to here in a second, but the second option is to put your games up for local consignment. If you have a local game store that has a used game program, the way that this typically works is you'll be able to display the game on their shelves, filling out just a little slip about the information for the game, verifying that it's complete and in good condition. Once the game sells, you'll get a portion of that money and the store will keep another portion. I've heard of a lot of programs doing something around 30%, so it's about 10 times more than the couple percentages that PayPal or Board Game Geek would take, but you're doing a lot less work. You're not directly interacting with customers or having to ship games out, so there's the trade-off there. Some local stores will give you a slightly higher percentage if you take it in-store credit versus cash, but again, that's something that you can talk to with your local game store or look into. And it does help support local game stores as well. The last option, which is by and large the easiest, breeziest option, and one that I've really come around to over the years, is just offloading your games to a third party. So unlike consignment, where you'll get paid out once the games sell, this option is going to allow you to just pick them all up, put them all down, and there's your money. For me, locally, there is a used bookstore chain called Half Price Books that does this, but a great option is to find an online retailer. As y'all know, Noble Knight is the sponsor of our channel, and I will say that I had planned this video and I plan on shouting them out prior to that happening, because I have used their program for selling used games both in person and online. And I have to say, it is by and large a great option if you don't have the time or don't have the patience and want to put in the effort of selling games yourself. So the way that this works at Noble Knight and other retailers by and large is that you'll submit a list of what you want to sell with just the general condition. They'll get back to you with, here are your options in store credit or in cash. Noble Knight is great because even if you're not local, they'll take care of everything from pricing to selling the games to repackaging them to sell to other people. They'll even take care of assembling and sending you a shipping label that you just slap on the box and ship off to them. It is super easy. Appropriately, you're not going to make as much as if you're selling the games directly or waiting around for them to sit on a shelf, hoping that they'll sell. It's a guaranteed way to get those games off of your shelf as quickly and efficiently as possible with only a tiny bit of effort on your end. So overall, these are all great options for selling and trading used games. There are definitely other ways to do it, but these are the three that I wanted to feature and highlight in this video. Hopefully that'll give you a great place to start. If you have any other tips or considerations for buying and trading used, please leave them down in the comments below. I think it would be great to get a whole community perspective on this versus just one person. Obviously, that's going to provide a lot more options for people, but hopefully there will be enough to go around, a little something for everyone. If you did find this video helpful or enjoyable, you know what to do down there. It's a hodgepodge mess of like, subscribe, hit the bell, and now, if you would like to, memberships. Thanks so much as always for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.